Hey guys, B Twice here. Today is Wednesday, August 11th. I hope everybody had a great trading day. Um, I'm going to start off today by going over wave theory on Alibaba. It was a request from somebody that commented on another video, so I figured I would touch base on it real quick. Overall, I'm still very bearish on most Chinese stocks. I do not trust investing in them right now, just because I never know what's going to come out next from the Communist Party. And what could potentially take these lower. But let's go over exactly what we've seen so far from Alibaba. So going up to all-time highs with Alibaba, I see that as a wave one of a super cycle. So super cycle wave one, and we're in a correction going down to find our wave two bottom. The most common place to find a wave two bottom is the 61.8% retracement, which happens to be $157 a share. Now, normally, on a move as powerful as Baba had, depending on what the stock was in the situation, I almost wouldn't favor it all going all the way down there, just because that's a very, very big drop, obviously, from all-time highs being 320. That's a huge retracement down. But given the very negative connotation that the Chinese stocks have right now, and some of these trend lines that we've broken, make me think that it is a very high probability that it is going to go that low. So let's take a look at this. So what we've seen so far is that we initially dropped on an ABC correction down. Ultimately, since we headed lower, it ended up being a complex correction, meaning that we have a W, an X, and we're looking for our Y. So one of the most common places that you're going to find your Y price target is the 100% extension of off of X. So what you do is you take the extension, so you pull from up here on the top of your peak down to W, and you extend it from your peak of X, and then that will show you where your Y price target could be. It's usually between 1 to 161.8% extension. That would be 90 a share. I don't see it going that low. But look what the 100% extension is. It's 166 a share. That's very, very close to 157, and that's what makes me think, hey, it does look like that's where ultimately Bob is probably heading. So now let's look at this. So we're in this complex correction. So obviously I drew this trend line. So we're in this downtrend. Um, we've only been able to kind of break above it for a day or two. And then from there, ultimately, we broke right back beneath it and headed lower. But what we've seen so far is that we had this uptrend that goes back from Baba's IPO, and we broke right through it. And we broke through it on a bearish engulfing candle. That's not good. I mean, and that's why when Baba broke back here, if I had a position, I would have exited immediately, because when we broke this uptrend line, that was the spot to get out. So now, what have we seen since then? So we continue being in this correction. Baba continues to try to get back above, and it ultimately keeps failing. And now it continues to fail, even getting above this downtrend line. So every time that Baba tries to get above it, we're ultimately failing back beneath it. So what do I think is going to happen here? Based upon what I've counted, and I'm not going to go into all of it, but based upon what I've counted in this complex correction, I do think we do have to pop above it to get to our X. So I do think we're going to see a rally from Baba, probably taking us to somewhere about 210 a share. From there, I do think we're going to head lower, but at that point in time, I think we're going to be using this downtrend line as support as we get down to the lows. I really like this area as a buy for Baba. If Baba goes this low, I will definitely be dip buying, and that's why I've drawn the circle. Hell, if I can see a clear WXY move, and even if the Y is maybe here at 170 or 180, I would definitely take an entry. But based on what I'm seeing, I want to see it pop up for X and then have a three-wave move down, and then that will be the buy spot. So I do think on Baba the buy spot is coming soon, but this issue going on with the government and the regulations and everything that's happening in China, that all needs to be resolved before I'll dip my feet in. And I need to see a clear uptrend begin. I'd want to see a three-wave move to the downside and then start of an impulse or something to show me some life to really make me want to get in here. But for right now, I do not have a position, and I do not plan on taking one right now. So that's Baba for you. All right, so we're going to look at IWM. Okay, so IWM, I went over this yesterday. So what are we seeing? I'm bullish on IWM. I still think that we're going to rally to the upside. I drew this circle yesterday as being a buy zone for IWM. I really thought we were going to go down and kiss this trend line right around 219. Ultimately, we didn't get there. It looked like we got to 220 and 50 cents. So we got pretty close. So this dip that we saw today was likely the bottom. We could still dip tomorrow if we do see a flush, and maybe we had a little lower, maybe we double bottom from there. But I do think if we do pull back tomorrow, then we're going to be coming down for a 2, and then we're going to see a 3, 4, 5 taking us up to this 228, 229 range. This was a line I drew yesterday coming out of the circle. I didn't even bother changing it because ultimately that's what I think is going to happen from the circle. And when we came down today into the circle, just like I expected, we rallied out of it pretty hard into close. So hopefully we can continue the impulse or the strength that we saw at close today. But just be mindful, if we break this uptrend line here, that's not a great sign, and we're bullish as long as we're above 217. So if this market tops, you want to keep these levels in mind just to make sure you can get out. Okay, so QQQ. Also, I didn't bother changing the drawing because this is what I drew yesterday. We got the flush at open. I kind of expected that we were going to flush. I figured that we were going to go down and see QQQ hit 363. I really think that it still could. I'm hoping that what we saw today was bottom. Obviously, I drew this circle yesterday, this pink circle, and said any dip in here was a buy, and that was going to be our wave 2 price target. So we are technically down here where wave 2 could have bottomed. That doesn't mean we won't see another flush tomorrow. If the S&P 500 goes negative, which lately it doesn't seem like it can, but if it goes down 0.5% and we see some weakness out of tech, don't be surprised if it takes tech all the way down to this 363. Be a dip buyer if that happens, because from here we are going into the 370s. There's a really good shot that we're going to see 380 before the end of August. I think that tech will turn around somewhere around here. I think Apple's going to probably start to really pump. I think Amazon's going to be catching some support. Google blew out earnings and hasn't done a whole lot since. I'm bullish on Facebook right now, and I also do think Nvidia is about to take off for earnings as well. Plus, I think AMD's starting to near bomb. So there's a lot of these tech names that are really beat up. I'm looking at CrowdStrike, Roku. There's a few others that I think are getting potentially close to a bottom, but I do think that they may take one more flush before they get there to get down to trend lines that have my attention. So with that being said, I do still think QQQ could go to 363. It doesn't mean it's going to. I still think that if you bought the dip today, that was a really, really good choice because I could be completely wrong. But if we're lucky enough to see QQQ go down to 363, buy that dip because that will be bottom. Just like IWM, I want to give you some levels in case I'm wrong. Bullish above 360. If QQQ breaks 360, that's a spot you'd probably want to short because this is invalid and we're likely going to be heading much lower. We could even see as low as 340. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to cover today because I don't have a lot of time is SPY. So SPY is just godlike right now. Nothing can take it down. Something is rallying every day hard enough in SPY to keep it afloat no matter what's happening across other sectors. So with that being said, what did I think I was going to see yesterday? I ultimately thought that we were going to be heading down to 440, and I had my line drawn coming down, hitting this yellow line and bouncing off. Now I've always had this really big red circle because I do think when we do see the flushes on SPY right now, they are a buy because I still do think that we're probably going to see 450 or even slightly higher by the end of August. So all dips remain a buy on SPY. But what do I think is going to happen? I still do think we're due in for a little bit more of a flush, but I could be wrong. But now, based upon the price action we're seeing, and even though we're seeing some weakness out of tech, but now we're starting to see IWM gain strength by a huge rebound today. What do I think is going to happen with SPY? I think if we do pull back, it's going to be shallow, and it's probably going to only be about 441, something in that ballpark, maybe even only 442. So I don't think we're going to have a deep wave 2. Now, with that being said, it is very possible that we have a deep wave 2. This count is still valid, and we're bullish above 436. But let's be serious. If SPY was to go all the way down to 436 from here, QQQ is going to pass invalidation and it's going to send QQQ lower. And if all of tech is taking a nosedive, I really don't think the S&P 500 is going to be able to keep pushing that much faster, that much higher. So with that being said, I do think this is going to be shallow because I only see maybe a 1% haircut off of QQQ, and maybe we'll only get 0.5% haircut off of SPY, or maybe it's closer to 1%. We'll see. But either way, the dips remain a buy on SPY as well. And if we get it, then make sure you're getting in. All right, guys, if you like these videos, go ahead, hit a like and subscribe.